All right, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here again for the third time in a few months, and really excited to introduce a couple people to you, one of which has been an integral part of us for a very long time now, but really showed me a lot of growth over the last couple of years, and then for sure in the last few months, and I want to commend him on the job that he did in the interim role, following a really rough stretch and then through the playoffs for us. And then I also want to reintroduce John Wallace. He was with us for 3 years, has been gone for the last 3 up in Minnesota. Really blew me away kind of to see his growth, both as an executive and as a person. And I'm really excited to pair these two guys together because I think they have really complementary skill sets that are going to serve this organization incredibly well moving forward. So that being said, we'll open it up to questions.
First of all, John, welcome to Denver. Welcome back. This question's for Josh. Just how did you eventually come to the decision of kind of divvying up these roles, and just can you continue to explain just the layout of the responsibilities in what is kind of an abnormal situation?
Abnormal. It's an interesting word. I think that unorthodox could be another word. But I think that really most everything that has got us to this point has been unorthodox. We've hired first-time guys before, and our best player is the 41st pick in a very unorthodox manner, the way he plays the game. So everything about us is unorthodox. I think from a process standpoint, I think it was important for us as an organization and myself and my father to really slow down, take stock of what the organization really needed at this point in time, talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different areas and gain a lot of different perspective, both in the basketball world and out of the basketball world, and really kind of nailing down what the Denver Nuggets need, and that's the margins on the outside of our roster. And I think that both John and Ben complementary skill sets are really going to help us address those things in a creative way moving forward.
Also for Josh, just sort of, could you shed some light on sort of how this system will work in terms of how the basketball decisions are made, who is on the phone with other teams in terms of negotiating on trades, contracts for free agents or extensions, that sort of stuff? How does kind of the layout of this system?
I think that they both will. I think that, from the outside looking in, sometimes people have a false sense of how things actually go down in the professional sports world. Sometimes that's owner talking to owner, sometimes that's president talking to president, that's basketball operations staff talking to basketball operations staff. There's a lot of different ways that deals get done in the NBA, and a lot of that is through relationships, and I think that our organization has great relationships at all levels throughout the league, and we'll continue to have different conversations in different ways with different teams, with different people.
For Ben and for John, what do you guys feel like your strengths are? What will you be bringing to these new roles?
I'll start off. First of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. K, Josh, and Ben for trusting me with this position, and everyone else who's welcomed me back to start this off. But to answer your question, I think for me, just my relationships with the guys, relationships around the league, I think the collaboration that we'll bring as a group and kind of being able to galvanize that is going to help me, obviously add to my strengths here and to kind of empower the individuals that we already have in place.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Kroenke and Josh for believing in me. When I got this internship in 2005, I felt like I hit the jackpot, so you can imagine how I feel now. In terms of skill sets, as an intern, I did every job here, and I ended up going to law school, learning about the cap and contracts, managing people. I was the GM at the Gold, so I feel like just us two together in terms of collaboration will be really healthy.
This is for John. Welcome back. You were around the team for quite a bit. You've observed them even when you were in Minnesota. What is your roster philosophy building around Nikola Jokic? What things, if you can identify the most important things the team lacks now that they need to add?
Well, I think Josh hit on it already, where we have to be really conscious of the margins. We've got to be very deliberate, and obviously the time is now. With Joker, it's obviously a generational talent, and how he helps out and how he elevates the level of play of so many people around him. We've got to make sure that, we find some more shooting, obviously address some of the defensive concerns. But I think we have both young individuals here that can step up and do that as we continue to develop them, as well as, we'll look outside and see what makes sense.
This is for Ben and Josh. You can chime in if you would like, but we're 2 years into the new collective bargaining agreement. You've existed in this kind of environment. I'm curious how your thoughts on the aprons have evolved over the last couple of years, and if the second apron is kind of serving as a hard cap.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one because when there's a new CBA, there's unintended consequences that then come with that. So we're studying everything right now. The second apron is challenging because it's very restrictive if you go over that. So yeah, we're looking at everything, and we're very aware of those rules. Ownership has always provided us the resources we need, and we feel like we'll always have that.
From an ownership perspective, around the second apron, there was a lot of conversations last summer about KCP and us re-signing him and around the second apron. And we never really got any pointed questions about that, or at least I didn't. And it was a fascinating one because we really did every exercise looking through retaining him and what that meant under the new rules. I think that for us as an organization, going into that second apron is not necessarily something that we're scared of. I think that there are rules around it that we needed to be very careful of with our injury history. The wrong person gets injured, and very quickly you're into a scenario where that I never want to have to contemplate, and that's trade number 15. We're very conscious of that pushing forward, and providing the resources that we can when the moment arrives. But that second apron, is it a hard cap? I'm not 100% sure, but it's something that teams are obviously very aware of going forward.
Sorry, to kind of piggyback off Vinny's question there. In this age of the apron, how do you treat free agency? Has it changed how you guys look at free agency and with building depth and building this team? Any one of you?
I think it's important to hit on the margins more than ever, but you're hard capped at certain situations, so you just have to be aware of what you spend and how that affects, essentially where you're hard capped at.
And to add to that, with the skill sets, Coach Adam is such a creative coach, and to give him more tools to add to that toolbox to allow him to complement the guys that we have. We have to remember there's a core group here that won a championship a couple years ago. So, when these guys are healthy and at their best, they're one of the best starting lineups in the entire league. So just to kind of put certain skills, certain things that can kind of alleviate the ceiling of us, and just kind of add compliments to DA's toolbox.
For Ben or John, whoever wants to take it, the draft tipping off tomorrow, getting into this job full-time just yesterday, what's the approach without having any draft picks? Are y'all trying to get in there? How do you try and handle it with such a short turnaround?
I think right now just being patient, kind of checking out the landscape, seeing what's there, what could come our way. But at the same time, we're going to do our due diligence to kind of be ahead of the curve and be prepared for whatever might shake itself out.
And to add to that, we have a great group of front office people that we've been working around the clock before John started. So feel very comfortable with the draft, and we're always going to be aggressive looking at getting a good player.
You guys keep mentioning the margins, talking about depth, specifically for John. Just plans for Strother, Watson, continuing to develop the young guys.
They're good players. Obviously the easiest way to develop is time. And so I think over the past couple of years, they've gotten more experience. They played in real games and real situations. So we have, the utmost confidence in them. It's just a matter of, kind of restructuring that and having a new approach this year with a few new voices. But the energy and the outcome and the, expected outcome is still the same.
I've got a question. I don't have a microphone. I was wondering, all three could answer, what kind of a role do you envision for Deron Holmes? Is he a power forward? Is he a center? How important will he be to the team next season?
I think he's probably both. I think that for him to come back, we want to not rush him back from his injury, and we'll just allow him to take his time. But he's playing summer league, and we're not going to put pressure on him coming back. But we expect him to be healthy and ready to go then.
Yeah, we got the environment that's going to be able to facilitate his growth. I mean, the age of positionless basketball and the type of system that we play, he has actual skill sets with his shooting, with his rim protection, with his mobility, to where we're going to be able to highlight the way he plays and let him get more comfortable just getting those reps at this point.
This question is for both Josh and Ben. Just, you guys have obviously been around Nikola. You probably, I would expect, be looking to offer him an extension over the course of this summer. Do you expect to be offering that, and do you expect him to accept it?
We're definitely going to offer it. I'm not sure if he's going to accept it or not, because we're also going to explain every financial parameter around him signing now versus signing later. Be completely transparent. That's the way we always are, and then he makes the best decision for himself and his family, and we'll support him in it.
John, what made you want to come back to Denver?
Familiarity is always key in the situation. I mean, being able to work with good people has always been on the top of my list. Knowing Ben prior, knowing the individuals that make up our office, front office, coaching staff, it just seemed, sort of a no-brainer. And obviously, having the ability to work with, Jamal, Nikola, AG, Mike, that's always, an added bonus as well. So it makes sense.
This is for Josh, but also Ben, I'm curious what you think, since you've been around KSE, not just the Nuggets, but KSE for a while. What property team have you observed a front office structure and you said that really works? We need to learn the most from this team and how the front office was structured. And what are some of the key details that you think make for good front office structure?
It's a great question, Adam. I think that, different front offices and different organizations require different things at different points in time. I think from a Nuggets perspective right now, we're not starting from scratch. We need to hit the ground running come game one next year. And so from an organizational standpoint, I would say, every team and every one of our teams in our umbrella is slightly different. The Rams are structured slightly different than Arsenal, and Arsenal is structured slightly different than the Avs, and the Avs are structured slightly different than the Nuggets. But I think that the best, to answer your question, I would say that the best traits involve constant communication, people challenging one another, going into a room and challenging different beliefs about themselves and the team, and then coming out unified as decision makers and all in together. Just thinking back to the last 12 months on the Avalanche side, I think that Joe and Chris did a phenomenal job navigating a difficult situation with Mikko Rantanen. Kevin, my dad, and I were involved on the periphery of all those discussions, and then eventually you make a decision together and you move forward. So I've seen it all in different sports in different ways, and I'm really excited to see what this group can do together, because I think they have all the traits to be really successful.
I would just add synergy and collaboration is always key for every organization I've seen with the Kroenkes and what they own. I was able to go over and see Arsenal recently, and I've spent some time with the Rams and the Avs, and you need good people, a healthy working environment. It's good to disagree, but collaboration and being together is everything.
Great question, Adam.
On that note, Ben, when you collaborate with John, if you guys disagree, how do you fix that?
I honestly think it's really healthy to disagree, and we have a great group, some of the front offices over there, and we disagree constantly. But what's important is, we make a decision together, and we're united. And we have great leaders, Josh, Mr. Kroenke, Kevin Demoff, even Mike Neary, who's a leader at KSE. We have great people around to help navigate these things.
Yeah, I mean, like Ben said, you got to have tough conversations. I think having individuals who kind of have the temperature and kind of seek out the temperature amongst the individuals involved in said collaboration, I think is important. I mean, the game of basketball is about adjustments, and the league can sometimes become sort of a copycat situation, and I commend these guys for having a forward vision and being progressive, just in the structure of what we have in place. And so I think you got to be able to have that connectivity to know who to talk to, how to talk to them, and then reach that desired outcome.
Ben, you had the opportunity to be the interim GM for the last 2 months or so. What were some of the things you were up to, and what were some of the things you learned in that role that you're going to take forward and, to your new role?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know what it would be like. And then when I got in the chair, I felt really comfortable. And I think I was around Masai Ujiri for his first time here, Tim Conley, Calvin Booth, all first-time GMs, all very successful. And I felt really prepared, and it kind of surprised me because I didn't know what it would be like. But we have a great front office, so it was easy to lead that group through draft prep, free agency, all those things. The team is amazing, and I would say Coach Adelman did an amazing job. And I just felt like it was easy for me to help support the group, and that's all I was trying to do. In this role, you know, it's a new challenge with John, and it'll be really fun to collaborate with him. And I feel like the last couple months working with Josh closely, I feel ready for this new responsibility.
For any of you, I guess, you guys have 3 roster spots open right now. Are you looking at bringing back any of those 3 guys that lead to those openings, or are you kind of trying to use what you can in those spots to add to the roster with newcomers?
I think it's too early to speak on all that, to be honest, but we're looking at everything, and we're always going to look at everything and be aggressive to make the best roster we can. I don't know, John, you want to add?
Yeah, just it's too early right now. Obviously, we know what we've had and kind of know what's out there. We just got to kind of go back to the drawing board the next couple of days and be objective and kind of see what the immediate needs are and address them as such.
Josh, what kind of input did you ask for or did you receive from Jokic or from Adelman on these 2 guys getting the job? And then for Ben and John, have you had any initial conversations with both Adelman or Jokic so far?
You know, I think I knew where most everybody in the organization stood, just not speaking to job responsibilities, but where they stood with both these guys personally. I think they're 2 unbelievable human beings that have no ego, and so, you know, we'll start there for sure. They also have incredible skill sets. So to answer your question about DA and Yoke, I think, one, they know these guys as people, but they also know their skill sets, and I think that they're both really excited to have them in the roles that they're going to be in moving forward, both personally and professionally.
Josh, do you anticipate adding anybody else to the front office, or do you feel good about where you guys are at?
I think this was the most important first step for us right now. Talked to a lot of people. We have a lot of ideas about how we can continue to strengthen the front office, but I think it's important for me and us to acknowledge how much talent we have in there right now. I think it's been great to re-engage with some of those guys that have been, you know, we have scouts in from out of town right now, all in for the draft, and so adding John to that mix is, I can already tell it's going to work well. And for myself, you know, I think I trust both these guys, and I'm going to be in constant communication with them both.
Matt Brooks, Nuggets.com. Nice to meet you both. This is for John and Ben. Culture and the family atmosphere has been a big part of this organization. How do each of you see yourselves adding to that and potentially influencing it?
Again, it goes back to the familiarity aspect, just kind of knowing what these guys need and what they want in terms of resources and playing into that. You know, we'll have conversations with each of the players, you know, outside of here, one-on-one, just kind of, hey, reintroduce ourselves, kind of see what the outlook is and what their expectations are, as well as what do they need from us. And then that, I think, speaks back to the aspect of staffing and just, you know, from the overall standpoint of where we want to go as a team, we'll just, we'll take that into consideration.
And just to keep supporting them and their families as much as we can, like we always have.
John, I'm Vinny Benedetto. Having the kind of viewpoint of being here and then leaving for a few years and returning and looking at the roster, is there one skill that you see the roster as a whole kind of lacking?
Not necessarily lacking. I mean, you have to look, obviously, at what you've done, where you are now. The West specifically has gotten younger and it's gotten deeper. So obviously depth is one of those things that you have to address. I think the IQ is so high here. The positional size is so high here. I think you're further along than what you think you are. I think now it's just adding a few more pieces that can just give these guys, honestly, some rest. I mean, you can't control the injuries, you can't control things, but again, it goes back to controlling what we can control, and that's just adding the individuals that fit this culture and fit this style of play.
Josh, I know we've asked you a couple times sort of about your role and hands-on, hands-off, when to be those two things. Now that you have this sort of structure in place, is there anything different about your role with sort of these titles, these two executive VPs as opposed to sort of the title system with the GM before, or do you see it as fairly similar?
I think I can probably cite one of my answers from a previous day here with everyone was, I think in times of transition, I need to be a little bit more hands-on. And so I'm going to be around quite a little bit, as these guys are kind of assuming their roles, making sure things are moving smoothly. But at a certain point, I'm not saying I let go of the rope, but you have to let people do their jobs. And my role with the Nuggets is not a daily one. And so these guys, I'll be checking in with them, probably, every few days, weekly. And then as the season starts, the cadence of those conversations changes based on kind of what's going on. So, no, I'm just excited to get to work with these two guys. Like I said, I think they complement each other really well, and I'm excited to see them continue to grow.
Last questions?
Adam?
This one's for John. Minnesota's kind of had Denver's number for the last year or so.
Easy.
So I'm just curious if you feel the team had identified something in Denver that you could exploit, and what those things maybe were and how you can address them.
I mean, who am I to speak to that? In this forum, yes and no. I think Anthony Edwards is he's a generational talent. I mean, the type of pressure that he put and the way he played, you have to commend that. Sometimes it's not your night. I say that's not a knock on Denver, it's not a knock on Minnesota, but again, it goes back to that depth thing. So we're going to reassess some things and try to get some more pieces in here to be prepared for whatever we may face on a nightly basis.
All right. Thank you, everybody.